left. They have been eating muffins. That certainly looks like repentance. They're looking at us. What effrontery. They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly, it's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to be producing an unpleasant effect.
Most distasteful.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, there is just one question I would like to put to you, and much depends on your reply.
Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have the opportunity of meeting you.
His answer certainly seems satisfactory, does it not?
Mr. Worthing, what possible explanation can you give to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have the opportunity to come up to town to see me as often as possible?
Certainly, Miss Fairfax.
Their answer seemed quite satisfactory.
I'm more than pleased with what Mr. Moncrief said.
So you think we should forgive them?
Yes. No. I mean no.
True. I had forgotten. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
No, it is not. Could we not both speak at the same time?
And I have a notable idea. Will you take the time from me?
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Will you take the time for me?
Our Christian names, is that all?
We
are going to be christened this afternoon.
For me, you are prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
For me, you're ready to face this fearful ordeal.
I am.
How absurd to talk of equality in the sexes, where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
Yes, they have moments of physical courage in which we women know nothing about.
Darling.
Lady Bracknell.
Good heavens!
Gwendolyn, what does this mean? Merely that I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma. Sit down. Apprised, sir, my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I've noticed by means of a small coin, I followed her here by a luggage train at once. Mr. Worthing, you will understand that from this moment on, all communication between yourself and my daughter will cease immediately. On this point, as on all points, I am firm.
I'm engaged to be married to Gwendolyn.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now as regards to Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
may I ask that if it is in this house that your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Mr. Bunbury. No. No, Mr. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? His death seems to have been extremely sudden.
Yes, Bunbury was quite exploded. I killed Bunbury. That's why. Well, the doctors found out that Bunbury could not live, and so Bunbury died.
Really? He seems to me to have had great confidence in the opinions of his physicians. I'm glad, however, that he made up his mind and acted under proper medical advice. And lastly, on the be buried, Mr. Bunbury. May I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is holding my nephew's hand in what seems to me to be a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That would be Miss Cecily Carby.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon? not know whether there is anything peculiarly exciting in the air of this part of Hertfordshire, but the amount of engagements that goes on seems to me to be well above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I do not think that some preliminary inquiry on my part would be out of place. Mr. Worthing, who is Miss Cardew?
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Southwest, the Spore in Fifthshire, N.B., and Gravel's Park, Dorking, Surrey.
That is not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspires confidence, even in tradesmen.
I have also in my possession records of Miss Cardew's birth, registration, baptism, whooping cough, vaccination, and the measles, both the German and the English variety.
Ah, a life crowded with incident, I see, though perhaps somewhat too much for a young girl. I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Gwendolyn, we must be going now. The time approaches for our departure. We have not a minute to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, does Miss Cardew have any little fortune?
Oh, just about £130,000, and in the funds. Good evening, Bracknell.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000, and in the funds. Now that I look at her, Miss Cardew seems to me to be a most attractive young lady. Come here, dear. Sweet child, your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems to me as nature might have left it. Though we can alter that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a marvelous result in a very brief amount of time. I remember recommending one to Lady Lansing after 3 months her own husband did not know her.
After 6 months, nobody knew her.
Kindly turn round, sweet child. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
there are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew.
Cecily is the sweetest, prettiest, dearest girl in the whole world. I don't get you can spout social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only those who can't get into it do that. Dear child, you must know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon. I myself am not in favour of mercenary marriages. I had no fortune of any kind when I married Lord Bracknell, but I was determined to not let that stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I do think that the marriage had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I myself am not in favour of long engagements. They give people the opportunity to discover one's characters before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
Pray excuse me for interrupting, Lady Bracknell, but according to the terms of Mr. Cardew's will, Cecily does not have the ability to be married unless I give my consent before she comes of age. And that consent I must absolutely refuse to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask?
I suspect your nephew of being untruthful.
Untruthful? Algernon? Impossible. He's an Oxonian.
I'm afraid there can be no possible doubt about the matter. You see, while I was away in London on an important question of romance, Algernon gained admittance to my home under a false pretense. He then, in the course of the afternoon, succeeded in alienating the affections of my only ward under a false name. He subsequently stayed the tea and devoured every single muffin. What makes his behavior all the more heartless is that he knows I have no brother. I distinctly told him so last afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I've decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct towards you. Come here, dear. How old were you?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit to 20 when I go to evening parties.
Ah, so it is not very long before you will become of age and are free from restraints of tutelage. So I do not consider your guardian's consent of any importance.
Pray excuse me for interrupting once more, Lady Bracknell, But according to the terms of Mr. Cardew's will, Cecily does not come of age until she is fully 35.
35 is a very attractive age. There are many women in London of the highest birth order who've chosen to remain 35 for years.
Algie, could you wait for me till I'm 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively. But I'm afraid I couldn't wait that long.
Well, then what is to be done?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
My dear Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew simply states that she cannot wait until she is 35, a comment which shows a somewhat impatient nature, I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolyn, I will certainly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
Mr. Worthing, you are well aware that that which you propose is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all any of us have to look forward to.
That is not the destiny which I propose for Gwendolyn. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Come along, dear, we must be going now. We've already missed 5, if not 6 trains.
Is everything quite ready for the christenings?
Christening, sir? Is that not somewhat premature?
Both these gentlemen have expressed desire for immediate christenings.
At their age! The idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be christened. Lord Bracknell would be highly displeased if he learned that this is the way in which you waste your time and money.
Am I to understand then that there ought to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I'm afraid to say that things now stand, there can be no practical value to either of us being christened.
I'm grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. I must return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed that for the past hour and a half, Miss Prism has awaited me in the vestry.
Pray allow me to detain you for a moment. This is a matter of great importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of the most repellent aspect remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated lady in the very picture of respectability.
It must be the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am a celibate, madam.
Miss Prism has, for the past 3 years, been the esteemed governess and valued companion of Miss Cecily Carr.
Let this Miss Prism be sent for. I must see her at once.
I was told you were expecting me in the vestry, dear Cannon. I've been waiting for you there for an hour and 3/4.
Hello, Prism. Come here, Prism. 27 years ago, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, Upper Grosvenor Street, with a perambulator which contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. Weeks later, through the elaborate investigation of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered standing alone in a remote corner of Bayswater at midnight. It contained a 2-volume manuscript for a novel of most repellent aspect. But the baby was not there, Prism. Where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I must admit with shame that I do not know. The simple facts of case of these. On the day of which you mentioned, a day which I forever branded in my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out on the perambulator, and I had with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag, in which I had intended to place a manuscript, word fixed so that I had written during my few unoccupied hours. And in a state of mental abstraction, I placed the baby in the handbag and the manuscript in the basket.
Miss Prism, where did you place the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
This is a question of considerable importance. Answer me. Where did you place the handbag?
The Victoria Station, right in my
I must retire from my room at once.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect, Dr. Chasuble.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
I sure wish you would arrive at some conclusion. That noise was extremely unpleasant.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
It has stopped.
Miss Prism, is this your handbag? Think carefully before answering. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
Well, yes. Yes, and here's the inquiry received on the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. And here, on the lock, are my initials. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I am very delighted to have it unexpectedly restored to me. It has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Prism, more is restored to you than your handbag. I was the baby you placed in.
You,
Yes, mother!
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
That is no doubt a serious blow. But cannot an act of repentance wipe away an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? No, no, no! Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Forgive me for seeming inquisitive, Lady Bracknell, but would you mind informing me of who I am?
I'm afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently Algernon's elder brother.
I do have a brother! I always knew I had a brother! I always said I had a brother! Cecily! How could you have ever doubted I had a brother? Brother! Dr. Chasuble! My unfortunate brother! Gwendolyn! My brother!
My own! But what own are you? I mean, what is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
Lady Bracknell! Was I ever christened?
Every luxury that money could buy had been lavished upon you, including christening.
I was christened. What was the name I was given?
Well, naturally being the eldest, you were christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's name?
I remember now that the general was called Ernest. I knew I had some reason for disliking the name.
Ernest, I felt from the first you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn at last!
Letitia, at last.
Under class.
Cecily, at last.
My own Ernest.
We would also like to take this opportunity to thank our lights and sound crew. Our wonderful tech crew. Our fantastic student director, Caroline Watkins. And then, of course, Mrs. Wood and Mrs. Cloud, who have directed this from the start. Thank you guys so much. And then lastly, thank you all for coming tonight.